Okay, we're back, and now we need to focus on monitoring and maintenance. So if I'm working in the production line and I'm doing my job and I'm, at the chromatography instrument, or really the chromatography column, and, I'm loading things the right way, I'm monitoring the things the right way, I'm logging everything that I'm doing, I'm initialing, I'm signing, I'm dating, I'm going to get a pay raise. Well, what other things should I be doing? What other things should I be doing as an employee, and what things should the company be doing as far as facility design goes and these production areas go? So that's going to be kind of the role of 7.3, monitoring these areas and performing maintenance on these areas. So constant maintenance is going to be required. This is something that's got to go over and over and over and over, folks. I've got to make sure that every day I go in, I'm going to look around. I'm going to make sure that things look the way they're supposed to look. Make sure the ceiling's not leaking. Make sure the floor's not falling through. Making sure I don't see creepy crawlies on the walls. And if I don't, then I feel a little bit better about working there, right? If I do, then there's probably going to be a process that I need to do in order to report that problem to someone that needs to take care of that problem for me. Facility monitoring, literally a couple of things that we can say about it. Process of continually inspecting. So every day I go in, I'm always looking. I'm always making sure things are legit in place the way that they're supposed to be. We can use sensors to help us with this job. So sensors can be in the room, and sensors can be monitoring the temperatures of the room, and sensors can be relaying that information to some type of system, and that system can be logging and reporting those temperature readouts. That is not a problem, and sensors are all over the place for that reason. And then the best monitoring systems, if we do have something like that in place, is going to warn me when something happens. So my thermostat at home, well, it tells me what's there. It's logging. It's recording. It's saying 74. Well, okay, that's my sensor in a way. It's recording the temperature of the room, and it's displaying that in some form or some fashion for me. Okay, well, with that concept in place, that means if I set the thermostat at a temperature and it goes below or it goes above a certain temperature, then guess what? The monitoring system should warn me. So, alert, 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 alert. Yeah, it kind of sounds like stuff we've already talked about. So that's why we're kind of moving a little bit faster through this module, because some of this stuff is going to be a review for us, and this is absolutely one of those review moments. So a couple of things that can be in place here, not only alarms, and we're going to talk about alarms and different types of alarms in a little bit, but alarms and sensors are going to be around us in all areas, in all places probably, but they also have these other type of alert systems and these other somewhat flow paths that they will utilize in order to track and monitor facilities and what they're doing at that moment's notice on that date and on that time. So number one is going to be a BMS, and that's a building monitoring system. It can also be called a building management system. So I want you to think of this as, again, sensors in a way that's looking at particulars for buildings and what is the building doing as far as overarching ideas. So not necessarily strictly tied to my production role or my production job, but really just the building as a whole. What's going on? How are things getting maintained? Is our temperature of the common areas okay? Is the water that's incoming into the common areas okay? Are the drainages in our public bathrooms and stuff, are those okay? That's going to be BMS, building monitoring system. It is way more than that though, but those are just a couple of examples. Next up is SCADA, and that is supervisory control and data acquisition. So what this means is that if we've got SCADA in place, supervisor is the supervisor, my boss, the person I'm going to kind of take orders from when I go in and do my job. They have certain roles in place. So that means if I see a problem, then I'm going to report that problem, and then that gets entered into probably some type of database system, and that database system is going to send an alert to my supervisor or to the supervisor that should oversee that type of problem. So, for instance, if I see that there is a pipe and that pipe is leaking, then that is an issue. And maybe it's not my job to fix that pipe. Maybe it's someone else's. So I'll key that into a database system, and that sends a trigger, and that will go to the appropriate person, but that person will be probably above me, and they will review this information, and they will say, hey, you're needed out in unit number blob in order to fix a leaky pipe. So go out there and do it, please. So here they go, marching on to the production area that is segregated. Again, use your terms, use your words. And they will go in and fix the problem. And then I'll be back up and running in a matter of no time. Next up is DCS, and that means Distributed Control System. So this is something we talked about in the last module as well. So the DCS systems were distributed, which means distributed across the plant. So this is an concept that we can take some type of feedback system, and then it goes into a main kind of hub, and then that hub can control multiple areas of the plant, not just one specific process. So everything is integrated, everything is networked in a way together as one whole unit, not individual units that take care of themselves. So computerized systems are going to be very common. Maybe these don't work for everybody, and of course they're not going to, but they are pretty standard, they're pretty universal, and if you need anything custom, then you can do that. I mean, that is allowed. So if you want to bring in something that will help you manage the facility, make sure that you're picking up all the errors and the problems that are happening, making sure that you are streamlining the reports the best way possible, you are more than welcome to integrate and create your own custom computerized system and tracking database in order for these processes to happen the way that you want them to happen. Now, of course, I'm talking to you like you've got multiple millions or billions of dollars to open up a plant facility. But again, this is the thought process that goes on, and this is why we have the things in place that we have as a worker, as an employee at one of these companies. That's why these things are present. So parameters are going to be important, right? So all of these, what they're doing is that they are controlling things, they are monitoring things, they are logging things, and they are reporting when things go wacky. So all of these parameters, we got a couple of different definitions here that we can use, and the first one is called a continual parameter. A continual parameter is something that I'm just going to continuously monitor, and that could be temperature. So for instance, I'm going to set my thermostat at 74 degrees. Woohoo! All right, yeah, so that's we're gone, not 74 degrees Celsius, gosh, 74 degrees Fahrenheit. You can convert that to Celsius if you want. So comfortable room temperature. So anywhere between 20 to 25 is what people like most of the time, Celsius. All right, so with that said, continual variables, I'm going to continually monitor, I'm going to continually to report, we're just going to make sure that things hang out where they're supposed to hang out. Absolutely, that is what a continual variable is supposed to be about. Binomial variables are things like off and ons. So it's going to constantly look at valves, and it's going to say, is it on, 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 or now automatically, oh my God, it's off. So what do we do? What goes on? How do we fix it? Let's put in a report. Okay, so those are some of the things as far as variables go that we call binomial. Bi means two. So two options. So you get off and you get on. You either get low or you get high. Those are binomial variables that we can talk about in production line. Next up are discrete variables, and discrete just means like little bitty tiny things, right? That's kind of what that refers to. Discrete variables are going to be things like equipment statuses. Okay, so is it running? Is it out of service? Does it need work? Is it in the process of getting fixed? Is it dirty? Is it clean? These are what we would call discrete variables that we can, identify on certain pieces of equipment, whether electronically or with a good old-fashioned piece of paper or some type of document that says out of service, out of commission. You cannot use this. Sorry, it doesn't work. So warning systems, these are warning systems and how they're organized. So all of these are going to be logging and recording information, and it's going to be recording these different types of variables that are going on in a plant, and they are going to be sending that information somewhere. So that's going to go to a master computer hub. That's going to maybe go to different direct supervisors, different breakout supervisor groups that are going to be responsible for only one area of the production plant. This is organization at play. And that was FDA's requirement in Title 21. You've got to be organized. You have to have a system in place, because there's a lot of things that are happening every day on a daily basis, and we want to make sure that all of these are taken into account and everything stays organized, and your chickens are not running throughout the yard crazy-fied in all directions. So that is what we want to prevent, absolutely. Common examples of building monitoring. So this building monitoring system, that's what we talked about right up here at the very top, BMS. And I gave you a few examples just now. Here's some more. I told you that was just a few. So building monitoring is, again, everything about the structure and the integrity of the areas that we are working in. So they will focus on everything. So in the very top part of this table, you're going to see air handlers that are listed as an option of thing, not an option, a thing that we've got to monitor. So this is going to be flow rates and how fast is air getting pumped into the room? How fast is air getting sucked out of the room? What are those filters like? What's the temperature of the air like? What's the humidity of the rooms? These are various things that have to be tracked and logged throughout a course of time to make sure that the building and the room integrity is still existing the way that we intended it to be. Water systems, of course, have to be monitored. We've talked about this over and over and over. So the temperature of the water, the conductivity of the water, the TOC content of the water. How dirty is it? Is it super clean? Is it filthy? Levels of holding tanks. So if I've got water for injection, what are those fill levels? What is present? Do we need to dump more in? Do we need to take some out? Do we need to drain? What's going on here? Those water systems, that falls under all of the building inspections and the monitoring that has to take place on a daily basis. Compressed air systems, this would again be like your air conditioning unit at home. So everything that is kind of corresponding to those systems, they have to be tracked, they've got to be monitored, they've got to be reported, they've got to be logged. Other utilities they have listed on the screen. Other utilities are going to include anything as far as room pressures go, any type of temperature of something special that's going on in the room. All of these other utilities, whether they're gas related, water related, pressure related, any of those types of things have got to be monitored, have got to be tracked. Processing rooms and processing equipment. What are some of the things that we look for in there? Well, air temperatures, humidities, of course, pressures of the rooms, because they should be kept super clean, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Particle monitoring, again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. So is dust in the room? Are these particles floating around in the air? If so, that's bad news. We don't want that to happen. There's got to be a monitoring system in place that will report all of that data. So all of these things are very, very important to facility management and maybe our job role as a employee for that company. So I'm making sure that these sensors are doing their job. I'm making sure that they are still logging. Maybe I've got to manually go in and do some of them sometimes, and they'll compare my manual results to the readouts for those sensors at any moment in time on any day. So who knows what is expected, but I want you to keep all your options open, because that means that depending on how the company has structured themselves, because they've got the option to structure them slightly different, then your job role might just simply be production. It might just be, forget about all these things. We've got other people that will do this for us, and that way you can just focus on your little chromatography column that you need to manage and that you need to maintain. Or Well, okay. The way our company works is that you're going to be in the chromatography room and you're going to be doing your job responsibility, absolutely. But at the same time, we're also going to require you to do some of the room monitoring or some of the building monitoring. And we're going to make you key these values in every so often, every certain number of hours, and so forth. So again, it really just depends on how the company is set up. What you see over on the left are just different kind of alarms that can go off. And these, of course, are going to be sound alarms. These are going to be visual alarms. And it looks like there's different colors here associated with these alarms. So it looks like a blue and a white and an orange and a red. So all of these, again, are really going to be dependent on the company and how they structure themselves. Different colors could mean different things, and just by looking at the color of the alarm going off at a distance, you will know what the problem is. That could be one of those options. Another one of these options might be different colors, like your stoplight at an intersection. It could be like green, red, yellow. Well, okay, we're tracking and we're monitoring, and that data is going into a computer system, and we hope to see green every single time. And then if we get to a point where we start getting close to the edges of the set point windows, then maybe we get a little light that turns yellow. And that allows me to know there's a problem incoming and I better try to fix it before it gets worse. And then that light could go red. And then if I'm not paying attention and I don't fix the problem and it goes red, and it's going to keep doing that until someone fixes the issue that has happened. Because again, those could be bad issues and we need to fix them or production stops. These alarms, these monitoring alarms that we're talking about now, there are two types. And again, we talked a little bit about this in the previous module. And this is just going to be another quick review. There are things that are alerts, and then there are more appropriate alarms. The alerts are just that. They are alerting you that something is in its way to go wonky and bad. So, hello, hey, I'm just alerting you. You better get him out of the house because your best friend's coming over and she better not see him in there with you. That is an alert. So that is before the problem happens. So you don't get an alert, and then what happens is that you're just enjoying your time with whoever that might be in your house. And then ding dong, and then you go up to the door and you're like, oh, hey. And in the back of your head, you hope that that person's kind of sneaking out the back door. All right, well, that's an alarm. That is a triggering event that needs to be fixed as soon as possible before things get much, much, much worse. And then before you know it, they're out in the front yard and they're wringing hair and they're yanking and they're pulling and they're punching. And then the phones come out and they have a great TikTok video that happens because of it, and everybody makes money. So maybe that's what your intention is in the first place. Who knows? But that's not the intention of biopharmaceuticals. Absolutely not. So for instance, I give you an example. The set temperature here is 5, and there's an acceptable window because we know fluctuation is going to happen. So that fluctuation can go 2 to 8. As long as it fits within 2 to 8, that is not a problem. So everything goes according to plan. Everything's good. Absolutely. And then if it gets close to 2 or if it gets close to 8, oh, alert, alert, alert. That means that you are right on the verge of having a problem. You are on the verge of this maybe process getting out of specification. So at 3 degrees, they're letting you know, hey, listen, you got 1 degree left. It goes to 2. 2's the accepted window. But once it goes there, absolutely, if it goes below a 2, it is game over, folks. You need to do something to fix this problem. And then the same way on the upper end. Like I can go all the way to 7, and 7 will give me an alert. Alert, alert, alert. You're getting close to the maximum of 8. So you got to do something about it because you can get to 8, but after you go over 8, it is game over. And then if it does venture out of that window, if you go to 1 degree or if you go to 9 degrees, which is that next degree out of that window, then it is a full formal alarm that happens here. And that alarm could be enough to send it out of specification, stop production until that gets back in the process of where it needs to be. All right, so that is the difference. Once more, we talked a little bit about it in Module 7. If you paid attention, did you pay attention? I hope you did. With an alert and alarm. Dial outs are a specific type of an alarm. Dial out or a remote alarm is this concept that it gets sent to certain people. So maybe not everyone in the plant or everyone in the room will get these alerts or get these alarms, but maybe direct supervisors or a different controller group that is just kind of there to fix these problems when they happen. Maybe they're the ones that get it, but somebody is going to get it. And if it does go to specific direct people, then we call these dial outs or we call them remote alarms. As before in Module 7, we talked about lights going off and we talked about noises going off. They can be very irritating and they can be very aggravating, but that is why they do that. I want you to think of if you've ever been in one of our buildings on the campus and they pull the freaking fire alarm. I mean, it is so loud, it hurts your ears. Flashing lights are going off everywhere. I mean, it feels like, oh my gosh, I think that the lights and the sound is going to do more damage than the fire if it gets me. So with that said, it's there for a reason and for a purpose. They want your attention. They want to make sure that you just don't hear it in the back of your head, or if it gets drowned out in the work environment. We hope that it does not. And that's why often these are aggravating noises and aggravating visuals that you begin to see. There are master screens that could be in either rooms, in the segregated rooms. They are master screens that can be in the control group areas. What this is it's just a big screen and it tells you the status of everything at the same time. So those are always nice to see, and we always hope that we see green lights with those for the most part. And if we do, then we're up and we're running. But when these things begin to alarm off and we get these yellow or we get these red indicators on the master screens, visually it tells me immediately which things are the problem areas, so that way we can go out and fix it before the problem gets worse. Maintenance is going to be a thing. Maintenance does cause a lot of issues, and I'm going to say poor maintenance. Poor maintenance causes a lot of issues. So again, I want you to think of your car and you're out driving and you're like, la, 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 la. I'm going to go shopping today because I've got no worry in the world. I've got all of my BioWork modules completed. I've got all of my assignments and certificates done. I mean, I've got all of this spare time that I want to do, and I'm going to drive out to Mayfair and I'm going to shop something floofy and fancy. So in the car you go, and boom, there you go. All right, so I hope you abide by the speed limit. I hope you watch out for all the other crazy drivers that are in the area. And, that could be part of the problem. You're watching out for everybody else and you're making sure that everybody else doesn't do anything crazy. But if you don't worry about your own self, there can be a problem, and that could be very poor maintenance. So you don't take your car to go get an oil change. Okay, you've not had your oil changed in 10 years. Okay, that's poor maintenance. So as you can imagine, you start the car up one day and you go out and you go do that shopping in your free spare time that you've got. And when you do that, your car breaks down in the middle of the road. We do not want those issues to happen in biopharma, because that's going to stop you from everything that car is going to provide to you. So if you need to get to school, guess what? You've got no car. You need to get to work, guess what? You've got no car. You need to go to the grocery store? Sorry, go hungry. You've got no car. I mean, that's how this process is. And we don't want to be in that situation in biopharma. So these repairs are going to be important. If we are in that type of situation with biopharma and we don't look at our maintenance schedules for maybe that chromatography column, then at a certain point that chromatography column is going to go bad. And if that column goes bad, unless we have a backup vehicle, that is out of commission and it stops everything from that point, and we cannot allow that to happen. So maintenance and flushing and cleaning and changing parts are very drastically important. So repairs are also called corrective maintenance. That is what they term that as. Now again, ooh, tomato, what word do I use? Legumes. All right, well, okay, you get my picture. Most people call them repairs. I think everyone that I've came in contact with calls them repairs. They don't call them corrective maintenance. I'm going to do some corrective maintenance activity on this chromatography column. Please, give me a break. It's repairs. That's what it is. So there's also planned preventative maintenance plans as well. So a repair is you going in and changing the oil, all right? So that repair can happen before or after it breaks down. It is a repair. So that means, okay, I'm fully out of commission, I'm stuck in the road, and because of that, I need an oil change because I've not changed it in 10 years, and now it's just a big old lump gunk. Okay, so if that is the case, if that's what's happened, you need to make a repair, and that repair is drain the oil. Hopefully it didn't do any more damage, but it probably did. But you're going to at least drain, and you're going to fill up with fresh, and then you're going to look at all the other things that it could have impacted or that it could have messed up, and then repairs could happen on those pieces and parts as well. So that is corrective maintenance. Something has happened, some kind of problem has ventured forward, you have fixed that problem, and hopefully you can be back up and you can be running. The preventive maintenance, though, is before the problem happens. So what this means, and I'll give you an example. On the laboratory side of the house, we could have an instrument that's HPLC. And that HPLC is high performance liquid chromatography. Now, our role in a laboratory side for chromatography is slightly different than the role on the production side, but it gives you an idea of preventive maintenance. Because what happens is that in this instrument, there are tons of little pieces and parts, and one of those would be a pump. Oh, go look, user words. Yeah, we got pumps over there too. And that pump, we could maybe do preventive maintenance on it. What this means is that that pump needs to be water-free, leak-free seal. Not water-free, but leak-free. So as the pump turns on and as the pump pumps, well, over a course of time, there's little bitty gaskets and seals that are in there that make this thing work the proper way, and those have to be changed out. Those are going to be worn out over a course of time. Preventive maintenance is the idea, and we abbreviate this as PM for preventive maintenance. So preventive maintenance is going to go in, and they're going to go, oh, look, yeah, there's pieces here that will wear out. So those pieces that can wear out, we're going to replace them. We're going to replace them before they give you a problem. So we are preventing a problem from going on and happening. We hope, at least. So I'm going to, every routine basis, maybe every 3 months, maybe every 6 months, maybe every year, on an HPLC instrument, for example, I'm going to have someone come in, and maybe that person's me, and it is a Cape Fear. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to change the O-rings, because they're probably going to dry rot over time. I am going to clean the pump out and make sure there's no gunk on the inside of it. So give it a good cleaning, give it a good douse, make sure that, it gets sanitized. So that way there's no grease or lotions or anything from my fingers that are contaminating it, or bacteria that can set up and grow mold and cause me a bigger problem in the future. So sterilization is going to be an important thing. But either way, this is what preventive maintenance is. So I'm going to replace common consumables on the pump, and then I'm going to put the pump back on the machine, and then I feel really good with the pump operating continuously from that moment on. Preventive maintenance would also, in your case, be something like an oil change, all right? So you are changing your oil every so many number of miles or every so many number of months, and you're going in and you are draining the old out and putting fresh in. That is preventive maintenance. So you are doing that before a problem happens, and that is the purpose of PMs. PMs can be done internally, and PMs can be done externally, which means I can hire a company to come in and do it for me, and they will prove that they fixed the problem that was on hand, or that they did preventive maintenance on that particular type of instrument or machine that I was using. And they give me documentation for that. And then we sign off, we give them a big check, and then they drive off happy as you can be. As the check is thousands and thousands of dollars most of the time. So, for instance, preventive maintenance, again, can happen every 6 months. Time frame wise, maybe every 500 hours that the instrument is on. Maybe every time you start the machine up. So every 2,000 times that startup process begins, you're going in, you're doing something preventive maintenance or PMing that instrument in some form or fashion. Every activity needs approval. Every activity is documented. So when I do maintenance, when I do replace pieces, when I do replace parts, when I get these things up and running again, there is a form for that. There's a form for that. There's a form for that. There's a form for that. And there's a signature that's needed for that one, and a signature for that one, and a signature for that one, and a signature for this one. That is just the way that it is. It is tons of oversight. It is organization, which is the number one concern with FDA, right? So we want to make sure we stay organized. People are in the loop. People know what's going on. And there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen as far as the paperwork is concerned. And when I say this, too many times, too many cooks in the kitchen are bad. But as far as paperwork's concerned, oh, your kitchen is as big as you want it to be. So you can have as many cooks in that kitchen that you want. It's not going to interfere with anybody. So unlimited size kitchens cram as many people in there that need to sign off on paperwork, and no one is going to be impacted or impeded by that process if it is done the proper way. But that also allows multiple people on hand that work at that plant, whether it's overall supervisors, presidents, who knows, the way that flow path is set up, it's set up in a certain way, but multiple oversight levels are going to be included in the sign-off process. All right, so in the next video, we're going to continue on with this topic, and we're going to talk about workflow. Now that I brought up, who signs off, how many people have to sign off, different levels of supervisory experience is going to be involved in a lot of these types of situations. That's where we're going to pick up in the next video. So just as before, come back and see me. You've had an hour and a half of Module 7. There's going to be more. There's going to be more. And I hope that you enjoy it. And I hope that I'm the best lecturer that you've ever had. And you go and you brag and you tell everybody about me. And everybody will start signing up for BioWorks. And then we'll have so many courses of BioWorks we can't keep up. And then before that, there'll be thousands of people at K-Fear that are taking this class all at one time. And I'll have to cram them in a little room that seats 20. That's not facility design. That would not be FDA approved if that was a BioWork facility.